Welcome back to Iraqi Dinar Hub everyone. Before we dive into today's detailed market update, I want you to picture a situation that demands your full attention. Imagine waking up to find a currency that was hardly mentioned 5 years ago has become one of the most talked about topics in global foreign exchange circles. Envision millions of traders suddenly asking the same questions, studying the same charts, and wondering why the Vietnam dong is now appearing everywhere. It's intriguing to think how this kind of unexpected, organic focus can affect broader market trends, investor sentiment, and worldwide discussions around emerging currencies, including the active conversations within the Iraqi dinar community. This exact scenario is what we're exploring today as we break down the surge of interest that has captured the financial internet. From Reddit and Telegram to Forex Factory and private WhatsApp groups, investors are buzzing with speculation, analysis, and curiosity about why this currency has stepped so decisively into the limelight. In this broadcast, we'll simplify everything using clear, straightforward language so even newcomers to Forex can grasp exactly why the Vietnam dong is being watched with such intense interest. Stay with me until the end, because what's unfolding right now may reshape how small investors read currency momentum and spot early-stage signals well into 2025 and beyond. Let's start by building a basic understanding of why the Vietnam dong has become such a hot topic online. For years, this currency was mainly followed within niche financial circles or by long-term speculators who believed Vietnam's economic growth might eventually lift its value. What's changed recently isn't just the underlying economy, it's the visibility of that economy. In today's landscape, Forex communities are more synchronized and reactive than ever before. Traders now respond almost instantly to chart movements, sentiment shifts, and evolving global discussions rather than waiting for traditional news cycles. Because of this hyper-connected environment, even a minor uptick in attention or a slight rise in trading volume can spread at incredible speed. That's precisely what happened with the dong. Small signals of increased conversation, slightly higher demand in niche markets, and growing talk of Vietnam's economic reform snowballed into widespread discussion across live streams, forums, podcasts, and YouTube channels. This doesn't necessarily mean a major evaluation is imminent, but it shows the currency is now under a spotlight of scrutiny it didn't have before. A key reason the dong is attracting such magnetic attention is that investors are increasingly monitoring currencies tied to fast-growing economies. Vietnam has been aggressively expanding its manufacturing base, securing high-profile international partnerships, and taking steps to boost economic stability. When a developing country strengthens its economic foundations in this way, even modest improvements catch the eye of Forex enthusiasts. What's especially interesting is how online communities amplify these signals. A single chart shared in a group chat, one speculative social media post, or a small wave of buyers can create a widespread perception of momentum. Whether that momentum is rooted in concrete reality or perceived through social lenses, it drives engagement. Forex communities thrive on the possibility of early positioning, and that idea alone sparks intense curiosity. People want to know if something significant is forming behind the scenes, even if current evidence isn't yet dramatic. This curiosity fuels more discussion, videos, and predictions, which in turn places more attention on the dong. That's why those watching currencies like the Iraqi dinar are paying close attention. When one currency gains online traction, it often inspires comparisons, strategy talks, and fresh speculation across the entire emerging currency spectrum. Another factor worth exploring is the evolving psychology of Forex communities in the modern era. In 2025, the internet has created an environment where traders aren't just watching charts, they're watching each other. When one group shows excitement, others feel compelled to investigate. When rumors circulate, people race to verify or debunk them. When a currency starts trending in discussion channels, many investors feel obliged to analyze it, even if they'd never considered it before. The Vietnam dong has become a perfect case study of this socially driven momentum. The currency didn't skyrocket overnight, but community engagement shifted dramatically. What actually occurred is that online groups noticed small but consistent conversations about Vietnam's economic progress and its growing role in global trade. That perception sparked a wave of questions. Is something happening behind the scenes? Are major institutions positioning early? Could 2025 be the year emerging Asian currencies gain more dominance? These questions alone were enough to ignite the viral interest we see today. This rise in curiosity doesn't just affect Vietnam, it influences broader market sentiment, especially among investors following currencies like the Iraqi dinar who want to understand global patterns that might impact their own holdings. The next major element driving sudden attention toward the dong is how investors in 2025 are evaluating long-term potential over short-term volatility. Many traders have grown frustrated with the limited movement and saturation of major traditional currencies and are turning toward emerging markets where early positioning might offer stronger long-term opportunities. The dong fits that category perfectly, and not because it's exploding in value right now, but because it shows signs of a stable foundation that could support future growth. Online analysts often highlight Vietnam's deepening trade relationships with major global partners, especially as multinationals seek alternatives to costlier manufacturing hubs. As these partnerships grow, investors wonder if the country's currency might eventually face gradual upward pressure from increased demand. This speculation encourages deeper study, detailed questions, and a search for potential catalysts. What makes this particularly interesting isn't a sudden price move, but the awareness that consistent economic activity can sometimes foreshadow long-term shifts. Since Forex communities thrive on anticipation, this growing interest creates a ripple effect where more people discuss, research, and monitor the dong daily. A critically important reason for the burst of conversation is the way forward-thinking influencers and financial commentators react to rising search trends. When content creators notice a currency being typed into search bars more frequently, they often produce content to match that demand. That content leads to more interest, more conversation, and more speculation, creating a self-reinforcing cycle. Even without groundbreaking changes on the technical charts, the dong has landed at the center of this cycle. Influencers on YouTube, TikTok, and financial forums are all talking about it because they see audience demand for information. When people see videos or posts with thousands of views discussing the dong, they assume something significant must be happening and join the conversation to stay informed. This behavior multiplies across platforms, creating a momentum loop that builds excitement and engagement. Many new investors previously unaware of the dong now find themselves curious, actively researching Vietnam's economy and comparing it to other emerging currencies. This widespread curiosity is a key reason dinar traders are paying attention, because rising conversation often signals early market awareness even before major institutions make formal moves. Another key point influencing the dong's sudden popularity is the rise of community-driven analysis in 2025. Traders no longer rely solely on large financial institutions for insights. Instead, they share charts, theories, and interpretations among themselves in a decentralized manner. These community insights become powerful when a large group focuses its collective intelligence on one currency. The Vietnam dong is a prime example of how grassroots analysis can bring a currency into the spotlight. Individuals began sharing observations about Vietnam's steady trade growth, improving financial infrastructure, and rising international attention. Others added their own theories, linking the currency's stability to potential future policy changes. Even though none of this confirms a major overnight revaluation, the collective energy of thousands of traders creates a palpable sense of importance that draws more people into the conversation. For Iraqi dinar followers, this phenomenon is especially relevant too. It shows how market psychology can shift quickly based on shared expectations. Traders understand that when enough people analyze and monitor the same currency, that attention alone can influence trading activity and liquidity, even if fundamental data remains steady. The final major factor in this section of our analysis is the role of economic optimism in shaping discussions around the dong. Investors in 2025 are eager to identify regions with long-term economic promise, especially as global financial cycles reset. Vietnam is one Asian nation that has maintained steady growth even while other economies struggled. This creates a perception that Vietnam might be entering a new stage of development. Whenever a country appears to strengthen its economic position, investors naturally wonder how that success could affect its currency. As people research Vietnam's expanding industries, rising tourism, growing exports, and improving international reputation, they form expectations about the future. These expectations, even if not yet supported by dramatic data, become fuel for discussions in Forex communities. The dong becomes more than a currency, it becomes a symbol of potential. That's why people keep talking about it online, comparing it to other emerging currencies, and wondering if it could follow a long-term upward trend. For dinar holders, watching how this attention spreads helps them understand how investor sentiment can shape the energy around a currency before any official financial events occur. Another factor contributing to the dong's rise in attention is how online communities analyze macroeconomic indicators alongside geopolitical stability. Traders today aren't just looking at charts, they're watching government policies, international trade agreements, inflation control, and overall economic health. Vietnam has been implementing reforms to strengthen its financial system, encourage foreign investment, and create predictable regulatory frameworks. When Forex communities notice even modest improvements in these areas, it sparks immediate interest. Stability and predictable growth can signal that a currency may eventually increase in value. These discussions are amplified by social media groups, forums, and chat rooms where traders share analysis, predictions, and news. For many participants, this isn't about reacting to sudden price movements, it's about understanding structural factors that could shape the dong's trajectory over time. The combination of a stable economy, supportive policies, and active global trade creates a perception that the dong is worth watching. This perception alone drives more traffic and attention, making it a trending topic in Forex circles even before major chart moves appear. The next reason for heightened attention ties directly to the power of social proof in trading communities. When traders see others reacting to certain news, charts, or economic reports, they often feel compelled to investigate the same currency to avoid missing out. This is exactly what happened with the dong. Initial small discussions about its stability and minor upticks in trade volume caught the attention of early community members. As these members shared screenshots, charts, and theories, the number of people observing the dong multiplied exponentially. New participants often interpret this rising activity as a signal that something meaningful could be occurring, even without formal announcements. In 2025, this type of socially driven awareness is stronger than ever because of the speed and reach of online platforms. Forums and discussion groups connect thousands of traders across countries in real time, creating a feedback loop where interest builds on itself and the dong's visibility keeps increasing. For Iraqi dinar watchers, this is a clear reminder that currency attention isn't always started by governments or institutions, or sometimes it originates from the community itself and spreads faster than any formal news cycle. Another crucial reason the dong is receiving extraordinary attention is the role of institutional positioning. While retail traders and online communities drive awareness, hedge funds, banks, and financial institutions quietly monitor emerging currencies for opportunities. Even small movements in trading volume, liquidity, or sentiment can trigger closer scrutiny from these larger players. When institutions notice consistent activity around the dong, they may begin positioning strategically, which further validates the perception of growing importance. This dual attention from both online communities and institutional eyes creates a unique environment where a currency suddenly feels alive in the market. Retail traders interpret institutional interest as a strong signal, while institutions sometimes adjust strategies based on broader community behavior. This combination magnifies the effect of minor trends, and that's why the dong is now at the center of widespread discussion. For Iraqi dinar followers, observing this process is essential. It demonstrates how attention, anticipation, and early positioning can influence not only emerging Asian currencies but also other underappreciated currencies that have been dormant for years. Finally, it's important to consider how psychological factors drive the surge of interest. Human behavior in markets often follows patterns beyond data, charts, and numbers. When traders perceive a currency gaining momentum, it triggers excitement, fear of missing out, and curiosity, motivating them to analyze and engage. This is exactly what we're seeing with the dong. Even minor indicators like modest increases in trading activity or slight upward movements on Forex charts are magnified because communities are already primed to search for opportunity. Discussion threads grow, videos get shared, and more traders join the conversation, creating a sense that something major is unfolding. Even though actual value changes may still be small, collective attention creates energy that can sometimes translate into real market effects. For those watching currencies like the Iraqi dinar, understanding this psychological dynamic is key. It shows that a currency doesn't need to spike dramatically to become relevant. To perception, sentiment, and social reinforcement can create waves that draw wider spread attention and influence future behavior. The next reason the dong is dominating conversation is global supply chain trends. In 2025, investors are paying unprecedented attention to countries improving export efficiency, attracting international investment, and integrating into global trade networks. Vietnam has emerged as a hub for manufacturing, especially in electronics, textiles, and consumer goods, making it a focal point for supply chain diversification. Forex communities notice this carefully because stronger trade activity generally increases demand for a country's currency. When traders observe rising exports and foreign partnerships, they interpret it as a signal of stability and potential growth. This perception fuels discussions, online threads, and videos analyzing how such economic improvements could affect the dong's value over time. Even without dramatic chart changes, the narrative of a steadily growing, globally connected economy attracts attention. Investors begin anticipating future moves, driving more research, social discussion, and strategic positioning. For Iraqi dinar watchers, observing how supply chain dynamics influence attention on another emerging currency offers a valuable lesson on the intersection between global trade and Forex interest. Another critical factor contributing to the dong's visibility is the role of comparative analysis. Investors love comparisons, and when a currency like the dong begins trending, it naturally invites comparisons with other emerging market currencies, including the Iraqi dinar. Traders start evaluating differences in economic growth rates, inflation control, government reforms, and international trade engagement. These side-by-side analyses create more discussions, predictions, and strategies, driving deeper community engagement. The dong becomes a benchmark for investors assessing risk and opportunity in less traditional currency markets. The attention isn't always about immediate gains, though it's about potential long-term positioning and understanding which currencies might become more influential over time. As more traders compare emerging currencies, the dong benefits from amplified visibility. Social media amplifies every post, chart, and analysis, feeding a loop of engagement. This comparative lens encourages people to follow Vietnam's financial news more closely, monitor trading volume trends, and anticipate policy moves. For followers of other currencies like the Iraqi dinar, it highlights how interconnected Forex discussions are and how one currency's popularity can influence broader market awareness. Another reason online communities are so focused on the dong is the increasing importance of market sentiment. In 2025, sentiment often drives engagement more than short-term price movement. Investors have learned that understanding how people feel about a currency can be as powerful as knowing its exact value. When traders see positive discussions, increasing interest, and repeated mentions of the dong, it creates a perception of upward momentum. Even if technical indicators show only minor changes, this sentiment can affect behavior, encouraging more analysis, early positioning, and attention to subtle market shifts. For many followers of emerging currencies, this psychological influence is key to strategic planning. When one currency gains credibility through positive community sentiment, it often triggers a domino effect, drawing the attention of investors who might have otherwise ignored it. This dynamic amplifies interest in the dong and demonstrates why tracking community discussions is critical for anyone monitoring Forex trends. For Iraqi dinar holders, tracking sentiment in other emerging currencies can provide insights into potential global movements and investor psychology that may eventually spill over into their own markets. The rising interest in the dong also relates to the concept of preemptive positioning. Traders often try to anticipate future economic changes before they're widely recognized. Vietnam's steady growth, reforms, and rising global engagement have encouraged this behavior. Investors are entering discussions, forums, and chat groups to analyze charts, volume, and economic data to position themselves ahead of potential trends. This preemptive approach doesn't require dramatic price shifts, so it thrives on anticipation and early signals. The dong, by appearing in these conversations, benefits from the focus of traders preparing for possible value changes. Online discussions magnify this effect as traders share observations and hypotheses, creating more engagement and curiosity. The attention given to the dong illustrates how anticipation-driven interest can create real-time discussion waves and early positioning. For Iraqi dinar watchers, understanding preemptive positioning in other currencies is important because it reveals how communities collectively respond to perceived opportunity even before institutional actions or formal market changes occur. Another major factor contributing to the dong's popularity is the global focus on Asia as a whole. Investors are increasingly viewing Asia not just as a manufacturing center but as a long-term economic powerhouse. Countries like Vietnam, historically underrepresented in major Forex discussions, are now being studied more closely. This macro focus brings attention to emerging currencies, causing communities to dig deeper into market fundamentals, economic policy, and trade statistics. As more traders explore the potential of these currencies, the dong becomes a symbol of opportunity. Its increased visibility encourages cross-border dialogue, research, and analysis, which further fuels the attention loop. For Iraqi dinar observers, this Asian focus highlights the interconnected nature of emerging markets and how interest in one region can inspire comparative evaluation and strategic thinking elsewhere. The dong's popularity isn't isolated, it's part of a broader trend where regional economic optimism generates widespread Forex engagement. Another factor shaping the dong's traction is the clarity of information and transparency in reporting. In today's trading environment, participants gravitate toward currencies where market movements are observable and verifiable. Vietnam's transparency in trading data, economic indicators, and policy updates reassures traders that discussions are grounded in reality, not rumor. Verified market activity, even small fluctuations, encourages more traders to analyze trends and join conversations. This sense of legitimacy is critical in 2025 because online communities quickly reject unverified or manipulated data. The dong's credibility, combined with emerging market potential, strengthens its position as a discussion topic. Community members are more willing to monitor charts, analyze data, and engage in strategic planning because the underlying information feels trustworthy. For Iraqi dinar holders, the takeaway is clear: verified, transparent data draws attention, discussion, and strategic engagement in ways rumors alone cannot replicate. The focus on verification and legitimacy also intersects with risk management. Forex traders constantly evaluate the safety and potential upside of any investment. Vietnam's steady economic reforms, visible trade activity, and emerging international credibility suggest the dong presents lower perceived risk compared to less transparent emerging currencies. This perception encourages more people to discuss, analyze, and monitor the currency. By actively participating in verified trends, traders feel part of a safer, more credible opportunity, which drives increased engagement in forums, chat groups, and social media discussions. The attention is further amplified because community members share verified charts, trends, and interpretations, creating a network effect where more people join the conversation. Another significant reason for the dong's spotlight is the alignment between community attention and institutional monitoring. When retail traders and online forums discuss a currency, financial institutions often take note to understand emerging sentiment and potential early positioning. This dual attention creates a reinforcing loop. Institutions validate the trend, which encourages more community attention, and community attention signals opportunity to institutions. The Vietnam dong has benefited from this alignment in 2025, attracting a unique combination of grassroots and professional focus. This effect increases the currency's perceived importance, even if short-term trading activity remains moderate. For Iraqi dinar holders, observing such alignment provides insights into how momentum develops in modern Forex markets and how attention from both retail and professional players can amplify interest and perceived opportunity. Finally, the combination of macroeconomic potential, community-driven interest, social proof, and institutional awareness explains why the Vietnam dong is receiving massive attention in Forex communities today. It's not a single factor, but the intersection of multiple dynamics that drives excitement. Traders are drawn to the dong because of Vietnam's economic stability, transparency, and trade growth. Communities amplify minor signals through discussion, sentiment analysis, and shared research. Institutions monitor these patterns, validating the trend and encouraging further interest. The overall effect is a self-reinforcing cycle of attention, research, and positioning that creates real-world momentum, even if price changes are gradual. For Iraqi dinar followers and emerging currency enthusiasts, the dong's popularity demonstrates how modern Forex attention works. In 2025, perception, psychology, transparency, and strategic positioning all converge to create significant buzz. Understanding these patterns provides a roadmap for recognizing which currencies may gain traction next and how community-driven engagement shapes modern Forex trends.